supply of a genetically modified vaccine against infectious it's trachea virus in chickens. I forgot. I looked up the word earlier, but these words are all crazy. The point is that this is let me try. Laryngotracheatitis virus. It's just crazy words. It relates to the trachea and like the throat area. The point is they're giving these chickens injections because of this virus, they claim. And this is the risk assessment, risk management plan for that. Okay. There's also the short version right here that kind of breaks it down in a summary. We're going to quickly go through some of these points on this document. Now, here's a really odd thing that I keep pointing. Actually, I forgot to look at these other ones to see if they had the same thing. Let me grab one of these real quick. So this one was commercial supply. Okay, so let's just look at this real quick to see if it has the same document, and I'll show you what I mean once I grab it here. Full version PDF. Okay. It doesn't. See, this is very odd to me. Okay, so check this out. This document is supposed to be only about this specific genetically modified injection that has to do with chickens, right? Everything else about this document does go into that. That's all it's talking about. There's no mention of COVID-19 anywhere. What do you make of this? I don't know why this is there, and this makes me very concerned. This RARMP, which is the Risk Assessment Management Plan, is open for consultation until December 21st, 2022. Written comments on the risks to human health and safety and the environment posed by this proposed supply of genetically modified COVID-19 vaccine are invited. Okay, that makes me really uncomfortable if this is somehow a cover for COVID-19 vaccines being given. I don't know, or if that was a mistake, or maybe this is a template and they forgot to change COVID-19 vaccine to the other one. I don't know. I'm not going to jump to conclusions, but it scares me that this is saying COVID-19 vaccine and the dispersal of this right now. I don't know. In chickens, I don't know. You guys can read into what you want. That's odd as hell to me. I don't know why. But here, I just had these highlighted from on my phone. I'll just read them from here. All this is directly from this document right here. So here's one of the first things that stood out to me. Under the proposed dealings, it says they're seeking authorization for the commercial supply of a genetically modified vaccine known as VaxSafe. Now, was that? I believe that was this one. Hold on, I'll come back to it. To prevent this disease they're discussing in commercial poultry. It says the vaccinated chickens would enter general commerce, including in human food. Okay, so I'll show you mRNA listed in this documentation. Regardless, we're talking about injections, vaccines with genetically modified organisms being given to chickens that are then being sold on the human market that do include an mRNA. That's concerning for 1,000 different reasons, watching what's happening today. Knowing these things do end up in the body, and we've already talked about this. So that's concerning in its own right. It says for the ongoing supply, the different testing methods and mods, administration of dealings assessed by the regulator to conduct experiments with GMOs, transport the GMOs, dispose of the GMOs. Now, it's weird the way they frame all this, like these things are inherently dangerous, which I argue they are in many ways, and that's how they're framing this. But not to get bogged down, I would make sure I didn't miss anything. Here's what it says in regard to, and this gets into the self-spreading part of this. Now here, let me just do this just so you can make sure you see this on this page 3. Just because this is the most important part, and I want you guys to know this isn't some mistake or wrong or something. Give someone the reason to dismiss this, right? So that was page 3. Make sure it's lined up. Administration 22. Right there. Okay. It says administration of the vaccine. Now, here's the point, via eye drop. So right there, you can see that it's not being sprayed like the conversation of it being sprayed above. I'll show you how that is happening in some cases. But it's saying the administration of the vaccine via eye drop would be carried out by farm personnel under the direction of a veterinarian. The applicant proposes to register this method of administration with the group they're discussing. Administration via eye drop and drinking water. That in and of itself concerns me about the idea of these things being used in those ways, are currently approved under both these directives. Bioproperties also intend to test other methods of administration to optimize the vaccine efficacy. Now it says They will consider vaccine administration via eye drop, in ovo, drinking water, and coarse spray. So right there, it does discuss the possibility of this being sprayed, just so we can see that, right? So they are openly discussing the idea that this could be, any injection could be used in a way, mRNA and otherwise, used to spray. Here's the most incredible part to me, guys. It's crazy how casually this is in there, and it's not a big focal point. It says all residual vaccine and associated waste, which has come to in contact with the GM vaccine, genetically modified vaccine, syringes, vials, eyedroppers, will be discarded into solutions containing appropriate disinfectant. Oh, actually, this isn't the part. It's the next one. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's this one. We'll get to it in a second. Sorry to jump the gun. I'm just blown away by this. It's important. The disposal of other waste. This is basically just showing you that they can spray it if they want to, that they perceive this to be slightly dangerous. They're going to I mean, even if they don't think it's dangerous, ask yourself this. If they're doing this for some random GM injection for chickens, making sure the syringes and droppers and everything's completely contained and disinfected and everything, why aren't they doing that with masks? Currently, today, why aren't they doing that with all sorts of other COVID-19 related things? They're not. That tells you something. The disposal of all other waste is usually carried out via composting, burial, and so on. It says, I think that was, that was crazy. How the hell did it just jump to 63? Very strange. Here we are, back to 3. I think that was the gist of it anyway. Yeah. Okay, so next, mRNA, 68. If we can grab that. Sweet. Okay, 68. The region of the GMO genome flanking the deletion was sequenced. The sequence data indicates that the GG transcription start and termination sequences were intact, and theoretically, transcription of an approximate 150 nucleotide mRNA could occur. Odd that's just buried in here, as the translation initiation codon remains in the transcript. This mRNA could theoretically result in the translation of a 27 amino acid non-functional protein corresponding to the non-coding regions of the GG mRNA. The potential expression of the mRNA and protein has not been investigated. Great. Why would we care about that popping up in the poultry that you might eat tomorrow? Crazy. We're conspiracy theorists, right? Okay. Lastly, or two last parts. It's 173. And this, guys, this is where this took me aback. Chickens inoculated with the genetically modified organism also had greater tracheal mucosal thickness than those inoculated with the other version. The increase in mucosal thickness is consistent with increased inflammatory cell infiltrate in the mucosa, which they argue inflammation is good or whatever. I tend to think that's not inflammation is a sign of a problem, in my opinion. This suggests that GG may play a role in influencing the inflammatory response of the site of the ILTV infection. The GMO was shown to be attenuated as chickens inoculated with the GMO showed milder disease symptoms and had greater weight gain at 4 days post-inoculation, where the gene was inserted. It says, in the same study, chickens inoculated with the GMO had similar titers of the virus in the trachea with, again, I did it. How do I keep thinking this is the right spot? It is the last one. I'm sorry. I keep telling either all this is important. I keep thinking. I'm just excited to get to the cell spreading part of this because it's just wild to me. All this is important. What they're pointing out here is it's suggesting the capacity for the in vivo replication and shedding of the virus from the trachea was not affected by the loss of GG. So first of all, that points out that the idea that this is supposed to shed is important and wasn't affected by the loss of the GG, which basically what they're talking about is they removed a certain protein, which is supposed to make this less dangerous, right? But still dangerous enough to be able to produce immunity because it's alive. We're talking about a live attenuated virus. So what they're saying there is that the shedding was not affected. Very important. So it very clearly points out that they wanted that to happen. Here's the last part. This was 81, right? Yeah, 81. Okay. This is crazy. I keep saying this for sure. Biodistribution, shedding, and transmission. As mentioned above, the genetically modified DNA is mainly detected in the trachea of chickens, which is the main site of the problem and where it replicates. To study transmission of the genetically modified organism. Okay, no debating what that says. The transmission. We're talking about an injection. They call it a vaccine. Okay, that's injected into the body. And the genetically modified organism is the injection. We're not talking about the circulating virus. That's not genetically modified, or at least we're told. The point being, if that's transmitting, there's no question. Even if it's by accident, that's the self-spreading. That's what's happening. You're injecting people and they're spreading the virus. Now, well, I guess I take it a step back. They would argue, if trying to defend it, that a self-spreading vaccine creates immunity, not just getting people sick, which arguably the same thing. Anyway, their game, the COVID has made things so convoluted with the way they argue about natural immunity and so on. But going forward, it says chickens that had been inoculated with either the GMO or the other injection 4 days earlier were introduced into cages with naive chickens for 6 days, chickens that hadn't gotten anything. Both, think about this, both the GMO and the one they already have been using this whole time were able to be transmitted to the naive chickens 6 days following exposure. Guys, that's wild. That means that the injection they've already been giving them thus far is transmitting. And yet, we're not concerned that could pass. I mean, look, their argument is the whole zoonotic problem anyway. So we're not, why would they not be concerned based on their narrative that this could spread to people? Because they don't want you to think about that. Therefore, that becomes fake news. Except alternatively, they're all worried about bats and spreading zoonotic transfer. And I argue that plenty of people argue that's not even possible. You should question it for yourself. But it's funny how when they look at this, they don't factor that in. This is concerning as hell to me. And I'll even show you the documentation where it shows you there's a concern here about how this can go awry, even when done in animals and spread to people. It goes more, though. No detectable DNA of the problem was observed in dust samples collected from GMO vaccinated and unvaccinated sheds taken at 14, 21, and 28 and 38 days. Dust from farms following outbreaks showed positive PCR readings indicating the presence of this problem. So they were expecting and hoping that it would shed. Either way, like in the context of like after the fact, like you can see it on the ground. But nonetheless, they were able to transmit the injection to other chickens within 6 days if they were in the same area. Scary. Transmission of the GMO to naive chickens who weren't injected was studied. Again, this is an intentional thing by the introduction of the unvaccinated chickens into sheds with vaccinated chickens the morning after vaccination as part of study 2 described above. 20 unvaccinated chickens to around 40,000 vaccinated chickens. Shed, 5 different sheds, chicken vaccinated via drinking water. This should scare us all, guys. This is not, I don't believe this is about chickens. Samples from the unvaccinated chickens were collected at day 7 and 14 after their introduction to allow time for transmission to occur. We're not talking about the virus. These are chickens that are vaccinated, not supposed to be sick. There was only one instance of transmission that was observed in the study in one shed. These data show a very low transmission rate to in-contact birds. But the whole point was that they found in their first example of this that they were able to be inoculated with either of them within 6 days. So if they're claiming that they weren't able to get sick from it, that's one thing. But they're saying they were inoculated. The vaccine transferred within 6 days. And that they were trying to see if that happened. That either means they know that's always a risk or that they wanted that to happen. Ask yourself. Come to your own conclusions. Now we go forward. That's just one example. By the way, look at how many things on here, guys. There's more than just these 4 pages. Look how many